Hi, welcome to Fostering Resilience, where I bring you everything you ever wanted to know about addiction recovery. My name is KJ Foster, and in today's video, I'm sharing with you information on steps 6 and step 7 from the program Alcoholics Anonymous. This is a part of my series that is all about 12-step recovery. So if you haven't watched the series from the very beginning, I dropped a link in the description, and there's also a card that's going to be running across the top of the screen. If you just click on that card, that will take you over to the playlist and you can watch it from the very beginning. In today's video, I am sharing with you what are steps 6 and step 7. I'm also going to be sharing with you some of my own personal experience in working step 6 and step 7, and then just some general recommendations and suggestions that may help you with steps 6 and 7. And be sure to stick around for the end of the video, because I will be sharing with you my comment challenge winner for today, and then also a great resource that will also help you tremendously with step 6 and step 7. So stick around. Let's start with what are step 6 and step 7, and then I'm going to explain to you why I'm talking about them together rather than separately. So step 6 is we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character, whereas step 7 is humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. And so there's definitely a difference between the two of them, and they're the least referenced steps in the big book. So I think that it's an area where some people can get kind of confused and lost, and which is like tragic if that happens, because step 6 and step 7 are really, in my opinion, this is all, my opinion based upon my experience and the work that I've done with others, but it's my opinion that this is where the real spiritual growth starts to happen. Because what we're doing is, going back to look at steps 4 and step 5 for a moment, is step 4 is we've done our inventory, right? So we've written out the inventory. In step 5, we've shared it with God and another human being. So as a process, as a part of that process of writing down the inventory and sharing it with God and another human being, the goal is to gain awarenesses not only of the defects of character, but also the things that we want to keep, the things that we like, that are positive, that are helping to foster, positive relationships with others. But also the key part here is looking at those defects of character that are interfering with our ability to have healthy relationships. And when I say healthy relationships, I mean healthy relationships with others, a healthy relationship with ourselves, which is where it starts, right? This is a part of the process of having a healthy relationship with self, and then others, and then also a higher power, whatever that means to you, whatever you believe a higher power to be, but having a relationship with some higher power. So this is where it starts. This is where the change starts to take place. So in step 6, you're saying that you're ready. Okay, you're ready to have God remove these defects of character. And so being ready is being willing, being willing for God to remove these defects. And it's a part of like what we do right after step 5. So typically, like I shared with you in the last video, after you've shared your 5th step with your sponsor will generally suggest that you go and have a period of meditation or reflection. And that's really where you're sharing this all with your higher power, and you're just going to your higher power, and you're thinking about these awarenesses and these patterns and this information and knowledge that you're gaining about yourself. And in step 6 is when you start to implement the change. So whatever patterns you've noticed in steps 4 and 5, you're starting to think about how you can then do things differently that is going to help you to move forward in your relationships. And a lot of people, get confused about, well, what's the difference between step 6 and step 7? And step 7 is really about the humility in asking your higher power for help. Okay, so step 6 is about being ready to change, okay, being ready to have God remove the defects of character. And I'm going to give you, and step 7 is about being able to go to God and not only ask for the removal of the defects, but then ask for, as issues crop up, asking God for help in taking them from you in the moment. So I'm going to give you an example of my own experience, and I think I've shared this in previous videos in terms of one of my character defects was anger, was, bottling things up because I was very codependent and very much of a caretaker, and I would bottle up my emotions to the point where then I would explode, and the explosion would happen, and it would be based upon something that was, it didn't match like what was happening in the moment, because I had bottled everything up and I wasn't expressing things as they were happening, and then I would just explode. And so I was learning, through this process of the steps, how to handle situations in the moment and not to suppress my feelings and to talk about, things in the moment. But there are instances, and there are situations, and there are experiences that everyone has where we get angry. And so I used to think to myself, oh my goodness, if I'm getting angry, that means that I'm not working the steps properly, or I'm not being spiritual because I got angry. And that's not the case at all. This is where step 6 and step 7 come in. Okay, step 6, in my opinion, is where, we've talked about all of our resentments, all of our wrongs, and we're wiping the slate clean. We're giving it all to God. We're wiping the slate clean in step 6. And in step 7 is where we're continuing to go to God and to ask God for assistance as these character defects, can crop up from time to time. So step 7 is where, when I'm in anger, I go to God and I ask God to remove it. And so I was just sharing about this today with someone in treatment, in that they're worrying, they're a worrier, and they're constantly worrying about the future, and they're worrying about their children, and they're worrying about everything. And so I asked him, have you gone to God? Have you gone to your higher power and asked your higher power to take this from you, to remove this worrying? And this is where the humility comes in, is being willing to go and ask for the help. And even if your higher power is represented through human skin, going to your sponsor or going to your mentor or going to somebody in your support group and asking them for help to remove it from you, to help you get outside of yourself. So this is where there's that key difference between step 6 and step 7. Another helpful way of looking at the difference between step 6 and step 7, at least for me, is that step 6 and step 7 has become, okay, and I'll explain why I'm saying has become a practice of step 6 being asking God to remove my defects of character at the beginning of the day. Starting the day with that clean slate of asking God to remove anything that's going to block me from being of service to God and to my fellow man, okay? And then step 7 is about asking God to humbly remove my shortcomings when I fall short of the goal, okay? So the goal is to change, and when I'm maybe reverting back to old behavior or I'm falling short of the goal, to then ask God to remove those shortcomings from me. So that's what it's become for me, but I want to share a little bit about my experience with step 6 and step 7 because it's something that I did not get right away. And I think that that's a really important point to make, because even though I did my steps very slowly, I did them about 1 step a month. So let's say, I was at step 6 at about 6 months sober. I wasn't really able to see my character defects and my shortcomings very clearly at 6 months sober. I was starting to a little bit, but I still really didn't have the full picture. And it really took me, just me personally, doing the steps a couple of times before I started to really see my character defects and my shortcomings a lot more clearly. So in the beginning, I was kind of like, what do I do? Like with my sponsor, I'm like, and she said to me, okay, KJ, I know you're having a hard time coming up with these. Other than anger, I knew anger was a big one, but I was like, but I don't know what else. I don't know what else there is. And she said, KJ, just like do things differently. Like just think of something that you need to do differently than what you're doing. And the only thing that I could come up with at that point in time was the fact that I didn't make my bed in the morning. And so I was a single mom at the time, and my thought process was, nobody's coming over to my house, nobody's gonna see my bedroom, nobody's gonna know whether the bed's made or not, so who really cares if the bed is made? And my sponsor said even something like that, changing a behavior, you know, is gonna help you to change in other areas, being willing to just make that change. So I started making my bed every morning, even though I had never made my bed prior to that. And so that was the beginning of my change process, was just the willingness to do that one thing differently. And then what happened over time is that I started to recognize these areas where I, you know, did have character defects. I started to notice how judgmental I was. I started to notice the gossiping that I was doing and things like that I had never really thought about before. And I had never really had a desire to change. And so slowly but surely I started practicing going from judgment to love, and, you know, going from judgment to acceptance, and the benefit, you know, the positive feelings that I got from being able to shift out of that judgment, and recognizing that when I'm in judgment, you know, the more that I judge, the more I'm going to be judged. The more that I gossip, the more people are going to gossip about me. It's like we are a reflection of what we put out. And so I slowly over time started to recognize these character defects and started to become willing to change those. So it's very much a process, and if you're not getting it right off the bat, like if it's hard to see where you really need to change, just being willing to continue to move forward is a step in the right direction. So just keep moving forward, and you will start to gain more and more awarenesses, guaranteed. Now don't go anywhere, because I have a great resource coming up for you that you don't want to miss. But before I get to that, I did want to give a shout out to my comment challenge winner for today, and that is Lauren. Lauren, thank you so much for watching my video and leaving me a comment on my last video, which was posted on Thursday. I have a comment challenge running for every single one of my videos. So if you leave me a comment on today's video, you could win a shout out in the next video that I post on Thursday, and you will be eligible for a $50 gift card at the end of the month. So leave me a comment. Let me know if you like the video and help me to get to know you. You could win $50. Okay, and last but not least, I have a great resource for you, a great resource for anybody who is working step 6 and step 7, and that is a book called Drop the Rock that is amazing. And if you are working step 6 and step 7, this is going to help you tremendously. So I'm dropping a link in the description so you can go ahead and check out that book, maybe purchase it for yourself. I've read the book numerous times. I actually used it for a study group where we got together and we read, you know, some pages out of the book and discussed it. And it really is very beneficial for anybody who's working step 6 and step 7, which is everybody, because step 6 and step 7 is definitely where we live every single day. So definitely check out that book. And if you've liked this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so by clicking the subscribe now red bar button down there. And when the bell pops up, if you click on that bell, you will be alerted to every time I post a new video, which is every Monday and every Thursday. Join me back here on Thursday, where I'm going to be sharing with you more information about post-acute withdrawals. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and have a beautiful day. Namaste.